Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Music First webinar. We are so glad you're here. Tonight's topic is Auralia and Musician for AP Music Theory, and we're going to be talking about the resources available inside the ear training software Auralia and the music theory software Musician for teaching AP Music Theory. Tonight, I am very pleased to have Tim Wilson and Peter Lee with us. Tim is the curriculum and content developer for Auralia and Musician, and Peter is the founder. So they're going to be giving us an overview of the AP Music Theory syllabus in Auralia and Musician, including the learning objectives that are mapped directly to the curriculum and the automated assessments that are based on real AP exam questions. And for those of you who are MusicFirst Classroom subscribers, we're going to be giving you a little preview of the brand new AP Music Theory course in the MusicFirst Classroom. Now, if you have any questions during the webinar, this is live, so go ahead and drop your questions in the comments. We're going to be able to see those and answer those in real time. This stream is being recorded, so if you miss anything, don't worry. It's going to be right there on the stream for you, so just go back and rewind and you can catch us up in the replay. So thank you both for coming. We are thrilled to have you.
Well, thank you very much, Rachel. Rachel, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. Just before we dive into some of the AP Music Theory specific goodies, just want to mention for anyone who is not familiar with Auralia and Musician, they are essentially ear training and music theory teaching tools and a practice kind of engine. They're used by schools, universities, and curriculum boards from all around the world, and they basically feature automatic assessment with immediate feedback for your students. So this is great for providing that differentiated and adaptive learning to really guide your students and hopefully help them achieve at their kind of maximum learning level. And of course, from a instructor perspective, hopefully these tools could save hours and hours of grading time. Content-wise, they cover everything from basic kind of pitch and rhythm reading through to dictation, all the way through to chromatic harmony, sight singing, and of course things like automatic assessment of four-part writing, which we'll be diving into in a little bit. The content also includes lots and lots of real audio recordings and repertoire-based content, including a whole range of pop and contemporary materials, which can be really great for helping engage students of all ages and abilities. Many schools use the tools to kind of support their band, choir, orchestra programs, and of course AP Music Theory. So as Rachel alluded to, today we will be having a look at some of the new cool content that is now linked within the MusicFirst Classroom. And I'll just bring this up for you. Okay. So we've had plenty of support for AP Music Theory content in the programs for years and years now. But the exciting thing now is that for anyone who has an Auralia or Musician full subscription and are working with the MusicFirst Classroom, you can now access all these materials as a pre-linked course directly in the classroom. So, for example, if I need to find this content, I can just go to Content and MusicFirst Library, and then simply go to the Music Theory section here, and my course will pop up like that. I can simply select that, and then if I wanted to adopt that or use that with my classes, I can then simply just use Course Now, and that will bring all those materials into my class. So what I'm going to do is just go to one of my classes that I've already kind of pre-populated here to show you what this looks like. I will just go to the class overview. And in here, we can see all these AP Music specific worksheets and quizzes. So you can see they're all organised here by exam level content and then per unit. So there's essentially a task or a worksheet to support every unit in the curriculum, all mapped to the CED, which I'm sure you've all spent lots of quality time with. You'll also note that they are organised into units over here on the right, so you can easily break down the content and look at it on a unit by unit basis. So the plan today is to jump in straight away and have a look firstly at the exam level content, and then we'll step back from there and have a look at a bunch of the kind of scaffolded levels and materials that can help students get up to that exam level. Okay, I'm going to start with some of our free response questions here. Jump into melodic dictation, and I'll just open an Auralia, and I'll just have to share another tab here as well. Okay. So when a student clicks on or selects one of these tasks, they will be taken straight into the task, so they won't have to deal with anything that we're looking at here at the moment. This is essentially an instructor view for previewing, organising, and in some cases, assigning these tasks. So I might just jump over the test area here so we can view all this content. So we're going to start with the AP Music Theory exam level worksheets. And as I mentioned, we might begin with some of the free response, 1 and 2 melodic dictation. Now, the cool thing about all these worksheets is that they draw upon larger question banks. So that means that students can do these worksheets multiple times, getting different sets of questions each time. The content of all the worksheets as well is modelled on the types of materials that you'll find in the exam. So that means, in the case of melodic dictation, dealing with the rhythmic vocabulary, the melodic vocabulary, the length of the excerpts, the meters, the keys, all those sorts of things that you would find in the AP Music Theory exam itself is modelled or echoed in the worksheets that we have provided here. So let's have a look at what one of these might look like. Yeah, I'll just zoom in a little bit here. So we have a couple of questions set up here, and in this particular case, there are actually 4 questions in total in this particular worksheet, just so the student gets to work on a few different melodies here. So you can see here we start off, we're in 6/8, we are in A major, and we have 3 replays enabled or allowed on this particular question. Let's have a little listen. All right, we'll pop down a few things here. We'll have one more little listen, and then we'll just submit it and get a few things wrong so we can see how Auralia automatically grades us. Okay, let's just fill in a few extra things here. And clearly not my finest work, but we shall submit this now. Obviously, I still had an extra replay here on this particular task. As an instructor, you can, of course, control all those sorts of things as well. So if your students are still at a kind of preliminary pre-exam level, but you still want to assign some of these materials, you can, of course, adapt these tasks to have, up to kind of, 99 replays on a melody. All right, let's see how he did. So I actually got a 50%, 5 out of 10 score there. And Auralia gives us some really nice feedback showing where things went a bit astray. I missed a bunch of rhythmic values here. And I can, of course, play back not only my answer, but the correct answer for comparison. Now, one thing to note about the melody here is, as I said before, these melodies are modelled around the types of melodies you'll find on the AP Music Theory exam. And you'll note here we do have our raised scale degree 4 or Phi there. So as you all no doubt are very familiar with, that is kind of the raised scale, the chromatic note that commonly appears on the exam. I think in the last 10 years, this has appeared in at least one of the melodic dictation questions, apart from, I think, 2015, where there was a slight variation on this in a minor key with a raised scale degree 3. So that's the sort of thing you can expect to see. Let's move on, and then we might just have a quick look at a bass clef example in a moment as well. Okay, and again, we'll just pop something in here quickly. I better get a couple of notes, a couple of pitches correct, just so in my next demo, my statistics don't reflect too badly upon my abilities. Okay, so once again here we can see we have raised scale degree 4. Now we did get 2 6/8 examples there. Let's see what we get this time in the bass clef. Okay, so this time you can see we are in C minor, 4/4, and in the bass clef. And let's just pop this in. Fill in the gaps for now and submit our answer. Now let's just have one little listen back to this. All right, and so on. So key takeaways here are, of course, melodies mapped and aligned with the types of melodies that students will find in the exam. Loads and loads of questions that they can draw from to just do those repetitions, get those key skills up. And as we'll get to later, lots of kind of preliminary scaffolded levels that can help students build these key skills to get up to exam level stage. So moving along, we might move into free response 3 and 4 here now, harmonic dictation with the soprano and bass. So here I can input my notation and then also switch over to chord entry mode here to enter my Roman numerals and figures. So let's have a little listen and see how we go. Again, this time we have 4 replays allowed in this particular example. All right, nice little deceptive cadence at the end there with a cadential 6/4 preceding that. Okay, something along those lines. There's a few little ambiguities in my answer in the middle there, but we might pop in some figures now as well. I'll have one more listen and take a few rough stabs in the dark as we go. Okay, and I'm just going to pop this in here and go with the 2/6 there. So the student can obviously edit their answer as they go to update any of these items, and the palette supports all those kinds of chords, diatonic chords, and chromatic chords that will appear in the exam itself again. So this example obviously didn't have any chromaticism, but we might see another one in a moment that does. Okay, I shall submit my answer. All right, so I didn't do too badly, 95%. And we can see here that generally, so I got my soprano and my bass parts correct, but, excuse me, just had one little issue with one of the chords there. And again, I can play that back to reinforce that orally as well as visually. Let's just try one more example to see if we get a chromatic accept going. All right, and let's go with that. And this time I am going to switch over to my Roman numerals. You can see here we have a slightly different palette enabled for this question, where the student can simply just select a single button. I'm going to be a bit lazy this time and just click in, all tonic chords. And we'll see what the assessment looks like on this occasion. Okay, so again, not my finest work. I did fairly well with the soprano and the bass parts, but obviously I was sorely lacking on the Roman numeral analysis and identification side of things. Okay. One other thing I wanted to mention just while we're thinking about free response 3 and 4, one other great resource or tool we have in Auralia and Musition for helping students build those kinds of skills is under our practice area here. Under Auralia, students can go to part dictation, and if they need to just work on really basic vocabulary, chords 1, 5, 5, 6, they can work on those in isolation. And then as we get up through the levels, I'll just pause this, different vocabulary is introduced. But the great thing is that in this practice level, we have the ability to use the mixer control here. So this is great, essentially allowing students to increase or decrease the level of the various voices to just help distinguish them in those kind of skill building stages. So you as the instructor can control what these sliders actually do. So even though I have all these, the alto, tenor and bass voices pulled right down now, depending on what you apply as a teacher, the student may or may not be able to actually mute each voice. So in this case, if we play this back, so you'll hear there that in this particular case, we can play with the volumes of each voice, but we can't actually mute them all. So students are still hearing, the soprano or the bass part in context with the other voices as well, but it can help them to hear those other parts. You can, of course, set it up so they can mute parts if you feel as though that's important to the kind of learning process. Okay, back to our exam level materials. Next, we might explore some of the 4-part writing really quickly. This is all automatically assessed, which can be a huge time saver for instructors and also help students just get that, again, that immediate feedback. For a student to do a 4-part writing worksheet one day and then not get a marked version back until the end of the week or perhaps even the following week, obviously just breaks up that learning cycle, and they may have already kind of moved on to the next item in the curriculum, having not necessarily mastered some of the core skills. So hopefully this tool could be potentially very useful for you. Once again, these questions in the exam level worksheets are all modeled upon the exam itself. So here you'll see we do have a applied chord, 5, 6, 5 of 4. Okay, I'm going to click in a few items and probably enter a few things that will have bark rolling in his grave, but hopefully this will just help to illustrate some of the ways that Auralia and Musician can assess these types of questions. Okay, so and I'll just jump over to my soprano here. And let's get a few things incorrect here. We won't. Actually, I will switch over to the soprano part here. So, right. So you'll note in the palette here, I can select voice 1 to enter my soprano and my tenor voices, and voice 2 to enter my alto and my bass parts. So I'll just keep going here. And now let's try, let me see, let's get some parallels going in here. And I will finish this off with, again, some other parallels and incorrect voice leading and spellings. Okay, so just so we're in practice mode, students do have this check my answer option, which you can enable, which means they get all sorts of beautiful listed and annotated feedback as they work through these questions. In this particular case, we just have the option to submit it like so. All right, so this is one of my more colorful efforts, and you'll see here that we have a list of all the errors organized by bar, and also annotated feedback here on the notation itself. Students can come in, select an item on the list on the right here, which then solos that on the notation. So this is a great tool for helping students to identify errors, and then in practice mode, they can easily then isolate them, go back, make some edits, recheck their answer, and keep working through that process. So really useful, really powerful, and again, it's saving you as instructors loads and loads of grading time. Okay, let's leave the 4-part writing for now. We do also have some manually assessed question types in the that are available here as well to support the AP Music Theory curriculum. So for free response 7, we of course have this composition task, which looks a bit like this, where the student can come in, add their bass part, and then add Roman numerals and figures and so on, and then submit that for manual assessment by you as the instructor. Okay, excuse me. While we are in manual assessment mode, I'll jump over to this sight singing area. We do have a bunch of automatically assessed singing topics in the programs in Auralia, but these exam level questions we have set up to be manually assessed drills, where we have brought in, again, melodies that are modelled on the sorts of things that you will find in the AP Music Theory exam. I will not torture you with my singing today. Maybe Rachel, would you like to? No, just joking. I won't do that to you. But just to show you how this basically works, these worksheets are actually set up so that the student has a little timer going here. So they've actually been given 1:45 to review the melody. They can get a tonic. And then when they're ready to go, they can hit start recording. They're away. And the timer, once they get to the end of that allocated timer slot, then they'll be moved on to the next question. So it does emulate the sorts of things students will get in the exam itself. So I can hit record here. And as I said, I won't punish you with my lack of vocal tone and control. But just to show you what's happened there, I can then play back my answer in this case. So I can hit record here. And as I said, I won't punish you with my lack of... So this is a great review tool for students as well, being able to hear themselves back. Again, in practice mode, if you want to, you can allow the student to have multiple attempts at recording themselves before they then have to submit their answer. So really helping them develop those core skills. Now, just before we move into some of the other units, I would like to just really quickly show you some of the multiple choice materials. Again, these draw on huge question banks, drawing from all sorts of real repertoire. And let's just show you what this looks like. Over on our left here, we do have our little navigator. So if you choose to, you can enable this. Students can click around freely between questions. I'll just zoom out a tiny bit. But it includes all sorts of question types that you will be very familiar with, like all right, so we can come in, select our answer, and submit. Now, I'm just trying to see, I think I have enabled, let me just see if I have enabled feedback on this worksheet. Okay, I have enabled feedback. So then I can play back my answer. If I do happen to get something incorrect, so now we're in interval comparison. All right, I'll select that one. Then, of course, I can compare my answer with the correct answer. And so on. I might just click around a few other areas in this particular worksheet just so you can see some of the materials there. You'll be very familiar with things like rhythm comparison or rhythm ID question types, as well as the contextual listening question types. So many of these will draw from real audio recordings, drawing from I guess, classical Western art music sources, as well as some more contemporary sources as well. And so on. As we click down the rest of this entry, you'll see that all of these are based around the same excerpt. Okay, now moving into some error detection. Of course, down in this particular question, we have to identify where an error has occurred. Upper staff pitch or rhythm, lower staff pitch or rhythm. So in measure 2, there is an error in And finally, in the last section here, some more contextual listening. So lots in there that you can use with your students as practice materials leading up to the exam itself. Similarly, on the theory side of things, we have a worksheet that covers all of those materials, from things like this, key signature, identification, through to scales, right down to part writing errors and score analysis. In this case, which of the following compositional devices is featured prominently throughout measures 5 to 7? And we can, of course, enter our answer there. And again, compositional devices down the bottom here, where students have to identify, how a certain segment is derived from another segment. Again, lots of question banks in there, giving students loads and loads of practice materials leading up to the exam. Okay, so that's it for the exam level content. What I would love to do now is just jump back to some of the other earlier materials here. So there are all sorts of kind of fundamental worksheets and things here, again, supporting each unit of the CED. So going from day one, if you are introducing students to basic pitch and pitch notation, then you can use this worksheet. If you're getting up to things like dealing with the circle of fifths, then you might choose to assign something like this. Okay, so step 1 is figuring out what's going on at 12 o'clock there. The student selects C major, hopefully. And then they're going to work their way around the circle of fifths. So there are a mix of question types here as well. So one is purely identifying the key. And then the other, the student actually has to enter the key signature, again, in this case, for position 1 on the circle of fifths. So the student can come in, pop in their answer here. They can do all sorts of things that might happen in a pen and paper type scenario. Feedback is turned off for this particular worksheet. So normally, if you enable that, the student would get some nice feedback there saying you can't actually, combine sharps and flats in the one key signature. Okay, so I should just back out of here. Moving into one of the other areas, I would like to show you also just how the programs can cater to students coming from different levels, so or different kind of backgrounds, whether it's heavily notation-based background, or perhaps they're used to using, DAWs like Ableton or Logic or tools like that. So let me have a look. So say we'd like to work on our seventh chords, reading and writing of seventh chords. Come into the preview area here. So we have a number of different ways we can submit our answer. One is to just select via multiple choice here, of course, but it's also displayed on the piano keyboard. We have a little solfege controller there as well as a guitar controller, and also a piano roll controller there as well. So as I mentioned, this is great for students regardless of what their musical background is, where they're coming from. It can help them to align core music theory and ear training concepts with perhaps an interface, an instrument that they are used to working with. And of course, in here, in a music theory worksheet, I can submit my answer and play it back in the feedback. If I do happen to get something incorrect, then of course here I can compare my answer with the correct answer. And so on. Now, moving down the list here a little bit, get into Unit 4, where some of the kind of core and introductory part writing and harmony elements get introduced. So just to show you what some of these look like, everything is really finely scaffolded so students can master a single skill before they then move on to the next item. So we break this down into lots and lots of different worksheets. So students can begin by just understanding melodic motion, understanding what contrary motion is, and then working through the different motion types, and then actually identifying those in really short displayed excerpts. And so on. Now you can see there we deal with all sorts of things from, basically figuring out everything from dealing with augmented diminished leaps within a 4-part writing context, and then slowly start to introduce vocabulary in a really slow, scaffolded way once again. So starting with 4-part writing using just chords 1 and 5. So here you can see we have the 5 chord given, and the student simply has to resolve this chord to the 1. So again, they can do all sorts of things here, and let's make a few common errors that might illustrate the sorts of things that could happen. And I'll do something like this. Again, I have checked my answer disabled for this particular worksheet, but you can turn it on and give students a chance to review their answers and receive that annotated feedback before they submit it, if you choose. All right, so clearly here I have an incorrectly unresolved leading tone. Lots of goodies like this, and you can see in the navigator here on the left, we deal with cases where the 5 chords given, and then also other question types where the student has to enter both the 5 chord and the 1 chord in both major and minor keys. So moving on, dealing with tendency tones, voice crossing and overlap, all sorts of other fun elements here, getting into 5/7 chords and inversions. And we might skip ahead a little bit here now. So dealing with embellishing tones, You'll note that all along the way here, our dictation items as well deal with the vocabulary as it's presented in the CED. So if students are dealing with, melodic leaps or skips within the tonic triad or the 5 chord or any of the predominants, there are specific examples included here. And actually, just before I show you one of those, I would like to show you some of the really early kinds of dictation questions we have. So students can do things like pitch dictation where they don't even have to worry about rhythms. And in here, they can answer things just with scar degrees like this, or and things like that. So okay, so let me just jump back out of here. So I just wanted to illustrate there lots of kind of beginner introductory levels to help students develop those core skills. Now we are fast running out of time, so just to finish off, again, just to show you some of the 4-part writing here, students dealing with applied chords in isolation, again, all automatically assessed for you. All throughout all these worksheets as well are singing drills to accompany all of the melodic dictation and harmonic dictation drills as well. So hopefully students are simultaneously understanding how melodic line relates to harmony, and they're able to both notate it when something is played and also sing things, combining all those kind of core skills. Okay, we are almost done for the day. Let me see if there's only a few questions here. So I think we are just about good to go. Most of those have been handled. If anyone else has any other questions, feel free to pop them in the comments now. Otherwise, Rachel, sorry, did you have something to?
No,
Excellent.
I was just going to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you kind of walking us through all of the AP Music curriculum. We're very excited, and we know that the AP Music Theory exams are less than a month away. So these are really amazing resources for anybody who's teaching AP Music Theory, especially now during crunch time. So if you are an AP Music Theory teacher and you would like access to Auralia or Musician free for the next 30 days, you can just go to musicfirst.com/AP, fill in your information, and we will give you a free trial. So I'm going to drop that link in the description box below. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Oh, can I just mention one thing really
quickly?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I just wanted to say, so we are hosting another webinar at this same time next week that we're really excited about. This is more of a student-focused webinar, but it will be great. We're going to kind of unpack a bunch of the questions from the 2023 exam from the free response section there, and look at some strategies and tips and tricks to how to kind of navigate those questions that might be useful. So please come along, invite your students, and hopefully that will be useful for all.
Yes. All right. Thank you all so much. Have a great night, and we will see you all next week.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.